Hi. Okay, so first things first. I got bit by something. Look at that. My lip looks so goofy. I don't know what bit me. I felt it. I felt it pinch, but I have no idea what it was. It bit me while I was trying to do some work outside. So Lord only knows. As long as my lip doesn't fall off, I should be good, right? Anyway, so it is time for episode 8 of this season of Sister Wives, and honestly, about 50% of it felt a lot like filler. Once again, unfortunately, that's the Christine and David sections, in my opinion. But hey, maybe you guys got a lot more out of it than I did. But firstly, hi, if you're new here, my name's Cozy. I like to talk about sister wives and related reality television shows here on YouTube. I do need to remind you these videos are for entertainment purposes only. These are not facts, they're just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives on television. So if that's cool, let's go. Alright, so, said I get bit by something. I'm also baking a cheesecake at this exact moment. So fingers crossed I won't have to get up and run away to go get it, but it has been a busy, busy week. I've got to bake this cheesecake to test it to see if it's good to take to our church dinner next week. Obviously, if you live in the United States, you know that we had the election this week, and that was a busy day for me because I had to, oh goodness, I had to run all over Hex Half Acre. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, I've been doing a work from home job, and I have to get a few hours of that in every day, so I've just been like exhausted and busy and whatever. So I am more than ready to just talk about this show and kind of put all of the rest of that behind me for a little bit if that's chill with you guys. So let's do it. We're going to start off with Christine and David because Christine's having dinner at her house and she's coming out of the pantry and she's like playing peekaboo with Avalon, which is super adorable. And oh my goodness, that pantry is amazing. I would give a lot for a pantry like that. My pantry is basically a closet with a pocket door that gets stuck all of the time. Not enough room for anything. So she's letting us know that David's coming to dinner tonight and gets to meet another one of her kids because she says Gwen and Peyton haven't met David yet, but those who have think that David's great. Some of them are a little hesitant and a little nervous, which makes sense. We all would be that way, I think, if our parents suddenly started dating when we were adults. I do think this probably occurred before the conversation that she had with her kids about David, because in that discussion, they specifically referenced that Peyton was in the room with him the other night. So timeline-wise, I think that that conversation probably happened a few days after this dinner, or at most maybe a week. It's just a little bit out of order. But it's not that crazy in the grand scheme of things when you consider it all. So she asked the kids, do you want Japanese sundaes? And I was like, a what now? So I started Googling, and the first thing that it came up with was literal ice cream sundaes from Japan that were made with ice cream, sweet azuki paste. I'm not sure what that is, but I know they're azuki beans, so I'm wondering if it's a sweet bean paste. Matcha and dango dumplings. I don't know what dango dumplings are either, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it looked delicious. So I was all about that. But then the only other thing that it came up with on Google was every single Sister Wives Reddit post where somebody was like, what is a Japanese sundae? So we're not getting clarification on it at this point in the episode. Christine's like, listen, can you guys please be nice when David gets here? And of course, McKelty and Tony are taken aback. This time? We're nice every time. Guys, stop. Those two remind me of the theater kids who still want to be in theater, but weren't quite at the level that needed to be to like pursue it professionally. You know what I mean? But listen, methinks the lady doth protest too much. We watched you last time, McKelty explained to us how you tease people to show them you love them. So, at any rate, she says Peyton and Gwen are the only ones who have yet to meet David, as far as her biological children. And since Gwen's not there tonight, Peyton's gonna meet him. And she shares that the kids have talked about missing Christmas traditions, or just traditions in general. Pardon me. And so it's important to her to bring back some of the ones that the other moms would do. So this dinner is something that initially she said Mary used to do, and Janelle too, but Janelle called them haystacks, or Hawaiian haystacks, and that got me a touch closer, so back to Google I went. And so, allegedly, according to what I've read, this is a more mainstream LDS church thing that is allegedly popular in Utah. Once again, no idea, just anecdotes from people on the internet. So the recipe I found came from a blog, and in doing a touch of digging to see the author's background, the author is a Utah native, and from inference, seems to be Mormon. I mean, I couldn't say for sure, but she mentions the girls' youth camp, which I know the church runs a big one. I'm kind of guessing. She says that's where she found this recipe, and it is certainly unique. I can't say it's wildly different from the chicken and rice casseroles in the Midwest to begin with, and then you bring in the toppings, and pineapple, chow mein noodles, black olives, green onions. That's some of the things I suggested. Cherry tomatoes. It doesn't look as bad as I pictured it when Christine was saying rice and soup and chicken and cheese, and that in my head was like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to eat it. In fact, this recipe actually looks relatively reasonable enough that I would be willing to eat it and report back to you guys, because it actually looks like something my kids would eat. Mostly because they could pick what toppings they wanted for themselves. And listen, if you have a picky kid, you know the battle is just getting them to eat. And thankfully, only one of mine is picky, but they got to get some food in there. So they're setting up dinner, and the doorbell rings. Of course, we all know who it is. David's arrived, and McKelty growls out, "It's a man!" And I'm like, oh my gosh. Listen, for the rest of this, awkward thy name be Brown, because the following interactions gave me secondhand embarrassment. Not that that's hard to do, but they did. In confessional, Peyton's like, I'm really excited to meet David, and he's got a suspicion that all 4 Brown kids are immediately going to insult him in some way to establish who they are. The only issue with that is everyone else has met him, and that's not exactly the best way to get to know somebody, and also 4 is truly not participating. Christine's nervous that her kids are not going to behave because it's important to her that they get along with David. And she says that her kids are already crazy. Well, maybe a little. She knows that things are moving fast, but they've been together for a couple of months. And so she knows she's going to marry David. She just is. And so now, awkward. McKelty in this like sing-song voice, Mom's boyfriend's here. And Peyton's like, hello, Richard. And David's like, Richard? And Tony's like, who's Richard? Like, taking it very seriously. So Peyton's trying to awkwardly explain this joke. Everyone is silent. It's a fail. And it's obvious this joke was either supposed to be Christine has so many boyfriends that Peyton got the name wrong, or that Peyton doesn't care enough to get the name right. It's, dare I say, a very Cody-esque joke, and falls entirely flat. It leaves us with this awkward moment, and a quick cut to Peyton being like, David's old. He's too old for Mom. Like, he's trying to get out of how cringe this was. Ashman's going to break the tension, though, and ask David, did you like any of the venues in Moab? And of course, David loved the Red Cliffs Lodge, which we know because that is eventually where they get married. And Ashman's like, is it large enough for 700 guests? And last week, we all assumed that number came from McKelty, but she seemed surprised at the idea of 700, because Tony's like, hey, we had 400 people at our wedding. And so then they're like, oh, right, there's polygamy. Oh, there's polygamy on your side, too. Your sisters. Like, so they just know a lot of people. And so we get a deeper discussion of how polygamy fits in on David's side of the family. He has 2 sisters that lived polygamy for a time, but neither live it now and haven't for like 30 years, Christine says. David's older sister got divorced, and the other sister got a sort of divorce, and then her husband died, and that's how she got out of it, is how David puts it. I wonder if it was similar to Christine. She was a plural wife, she left, she did not need a legal divorce kind of situation. Not sure. They ask, hey, do you guys have a date? And David's like, the 22nd of October, which we know in the future, that's not accurate. They got married on October 7th, I think. I feel like that was the right day. Maybe I'm wrong. McKelty points out that that's the day before Tony's birthday. But the tone is one of, like, comparing birthdays. Like, oh, that's the day before my husband's birthday. Like, we're not comparing birthdays. This is a wedding. 2 separate events. And David's like, well, we're not celebrating his birthday, okay? Like, that's a good plan. Christine points out, if you want October in Moab, you got to get the venue right away, because October is crazy out there. And I would believe her, because husband and I looked into getting married in October for our wedding, but things fill up so quick, and then there were some other circumstances, and we got married in May. So she confirms they have a date, but they're not engaged yet. And Aspen's like, listen, I am surprised at how quickly things are moving, because Christine just got out of a 25-year marriage, and now she's getting remarried. And it seems really, really fast. And it might be, but you would then have to agree that Robin's courtship was fast too, which they've always said was very slow. So, disconnect. Tony wants to know, did David need Rex's blessing? And if you're not sure, Rex Allred is Christine's father. Christine's glowing, and she says, David already asked Dad. Like, that already happened. And of course, Tony and McKelty are like, oh, that fast? Because it's them. And listen, they're not barely adults, guys. Just saying. Christine says it meant the world to her that he would ask. And she shares that David and Rex were having this wonderful conversation. They were getting to know each other and getting along really well. So David said, hey, can I have your blessing? And Rex reached over and said, yes. And she gives us this impression of her dad and continues to give the story to her kids, sharing that Rex actually got up to fix David a plate of food. And Peyton's like, Grandpa who takes 10 minutes to rise from a chair, got David a plate of food. And David's like, yep, me, no one else. Aspen's hedging and she's like, sounds like it's getting serious. But McKelty's like, it's already serious. It's been serious since the first date where Christine got mad that he wouldn't kiss her. The story is then corrected to that was the second date. And Peyton's like, yeah, gosh, McKelty. Because, really? Christine explains they went to see The Little Mermaid on their second date, the stage show, not the movie. And she goes into this explanation about the song Kiss the Girl. Now, I am going to assume, since most of us here are relatively normal people, that we all know the film and therefore the song Kiss the Girl. We don't have to go into an extended explanation, but she does feel like it would have been the absolute perfect time for it, and he didn't. And David's like, listen, I'm a gentleman and I'm gonna wait, so she's gonna have to wait too. And Christine's like, I was married for 20 odd years with just all this uncertainty all the time, and I am not entering another relationship with this much uncertainty. And so now, awkward, thy name is Tony, because they're saying, oh, we kissed on our third date. Tony's like, no, that's the sex date. And the whole room's like, whoa! And then there are various looks that get passed around the room from various people. And I'm leaving it at that. I don't want to know what any of those looks meant. Thank you. McKelty says that she thinks the siblings are all very humorous with each other. That's not necessarily how I'd phrase that, but fine. They're quick-witted. That's relatively accurate. And it takes someone who can give and take sarcasm back quite quickly for them to click really well. And she says David picked up on that verbal sparring like day one. So now McKelty wants to discuss, have they farted in front of each other yet? No, they haven't, they don't think. And Tony's pushing it even further. Do you talk to David while he's pooping? I'm with Truly when she goes, okay, bye, and just walks away. Like, I'm with her. And I feel it, like, deep in my soul, because if I had control of that camera, it'd be like, nobody wants to hear this. Like, we just walk right away. Christine, Mitch, and Aspen are all in agreement. No, we don't do that. And Christine's like, I wouldn't do that with my girlfriends or with my kids. And David's like, listen, I text in the bathroom. Let's be serious. A lot of people text in the bathroom. I'm not going to judge the man for that. Suddenly, Cody comes in to remind us that he believes Christine's entire goal in leaving was to find her soulmate. Don't know that that's exactly accurate, but it was a large portion of it. And he anticipated she'd be dating as soon as she got to Utah. Just wait. He'll contradict that later. But he's not heard anything about it. And he really doesn't even want to. Just, I wish you well, and that's all. Aspen and David are discussing the metaphorical meaning of dinner and how you have to layer it just right to blend all of the flavors together. And so Christine jumps in and says, I love you so much, babe. Let's blend these flavors with a kiss. And Aspen kind of like looks away and the other kids are whatever. But she shares she's just not used to this much affection coming from her mother because she hasn't seen that in a long time. She does remember her parents dancing in the kitchen in Vegas, but it's been such a long time and this is somebody new. Isabel's agreeing that seeing her mom kiss somebody new completely throws her off. And Christine says, listen, I'm testing them. They'll kiss their partners in front of me. I should be allowed to do it in front of them. And so Christine does confirm, the kids, are you good about us getting married? And Tony starts up with this whole, I think you should wait until December thing. Let it go. Let it go. It's been 8 years at this. Well, 7 years at that point. Let it go. Be like Elsa and let it go. Anyway, Christine says, I knew that was coming from you. Of course you did, because let it go. And so Tony starts throwing out a lot of the things that were said to him and McKelty. And McKelty says, well, that's 6 months after Gwen's wedding. It is 6 months, not 6 weeks, like someone else really wanted to try. Christine admits that she did put the brakes hard on Tony and McKelty's relationship, and frankly, I still don't think she was wrong. And we flash back to Cody telling them, listen, I need you guys to get married in December. That's my comfort level. And I don't think he was wrong for that. And I know I don't agree with Cody on very much, but based off of how the planning for McKelty's wedding went, there is no way that it pulled that monstrosity off in 2 months, 6 weeks, however long. Sorry. You needed more time, and to take that time away from Maddie at the down to the wire moments would have been wrong. Would have been wrong. So I agree with all of it. Listen, I'm glad the two of them found each other and are happy and are still together. I still don't think Christine was wrong to say, hey, you guys are very, very young. Let's think this through. Hey, we need to slow down a little bit here. I think that was still okay. Christine is an adult in a completely different place in her life. So I understand maybe people will go, hypocrite. Fine, go for it. I still think that that's the case. Christine does admit being on the other side now, though. She can understand why they wanted to rush. Peyton's like, listen, I completely support you. But would it matter if I didn't? David looks him dead in the eye and goes, no. And Peyton's like, yeah, I didn't think so. Accurate. And it all made me kind of chuckle. Christine's recognizing that Peyton and Isabel actually are having quite a hard time about how things are really moving quickly. And so Isabel's like, hey, when are you going to meet Janelle and her boys? And they say next weekend. And everybody's so excited about whoever can be here. Like, that's what's going to happen. And I'm assuming they mean at Gwen's party. So he's going to meet whoever can make it. And Christine tells the kids, Janelle fully supports this relationship. And she's getting to meet David next weekend, too. So we get Janelle giggling. And she's like, listen, I've not met him, but from the things I've heard, I have a really good feeling about him. And in true Janelle fashion, she says that the thing that most tells her about his character is that he raised his 8 kids after his wife died, all by himself. And that makes absolute sense for Janelle, because the biggest thing to her is a good dad. That's her biggest thing in life, and her biggest issue with Cody. She tosses out this tiny barb of, and he still has a relationship with all his kids. Oh, burn. Okay. Aspen wants to know, is there anything else we should know about you? And before anybody can say anything, McKelty's like, how many tattoos do you have? So Christine clarifies, yes, I was looking for someone bald, tattoos, motorcycle rider. And she says, we're going to get matching tattoos together. And Tony brings up that Christine has this perfect pair of leather pants for riding a motorcycle. And of course, she's laughing and agreeing. And she says, is it cheesy that we're getting matching tattoos? Now, my husband loves that idea, and he wishes that we could get some. I can't do it. I get panicked thinking about it. I can't go get one. He has one tattoo on his right inside. I have to think about it every single time. I genuinely can't remember half the time. And I know he wants more. And I think about it, and I had something picked out in my life. Every time that I think enough about it actually happening, I start to panic. And I know I can't. I just can't. I could not sit still for it. I would be up out of the chair, freaking out. I'd have Phoebe's dot tattoo from Friends. That's what I would have. Producers appear to ask Peyton what he thinks about it, because it seems like we're starting in the middle of a conversation. He's like, well, might as well go for it, but it's kind of weird. Now I get it. He's still not sure. So it would seem weird to get a very permanent thing on your body if you aren't 100%. So Cody tells us that he's now thinking about Christine in a place of no regret. Okay. And admits, hey, we did have some fun and special times. Okay, except that every other time you've been saying how nothing was ever good in your relationship. It was always trash. So, oh my. Anyway, he wishes they could have had a breakup where they stayed friends, but it never could have been, because all he saw as every step of it was a betrayal. And because of that, he doesn't know that he can ever be in a good place with her. Meaning, he still sees it all as a betrayal, but he's trying not to. I don't know. And Peyton's going to come back and tie this whole dinner up for us and says, listen, I see a future here, but anything can happen. And Isabel's agreeing. It's so fast, along with Aspen. So Cody comes to share with us his birthday thoughts. He's turning 55, and he's had some thoughts about how different that is from when he turned 50. He remembers thinking he was halfway through life at 50 and questioned, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be for the rest of my life? And he says the previous night that he and Robin were having this discussion about their values and how he's been in this constant place of struggle through this divorce process. And today, Cody, so Cody of Now Times, says that it's because the big picture was completely shattered. Oh my gosh. We know. And he has this sweet, kind, safe space with Robin. I don't care. I'm really trying. We hear this. This is the same mantra we hear every single time Cody talks and has to do any self-reflection. It's the divorce. I'm struggling with my values. Robin is sweet, kind, safe, all those things. But he does admit to having some guilt because he's not more involved with everyone else in the family. All right. That's better than nothing, I guess. Robin shares that from her perspective, Cody's a very angry and lost person. And he has been for several years at this point. She needs to recognize this space for what it is. And that she has to know in her mind that he's just afraid that she's going to leave him too. And I don't ever think that's going to happen personally. Like, honestly, I think if it were going to happen, it would have happened by now. You know what I mean? We are almost, most of the marriage breakups happened in 2021. Most of them, some in 2022. We are almost in 2025 at this point. I think if she were going anywhere, she'd have done it in the last 3 to 4 years. They have settled into this comfortable life together. They're buying a new home or bought a new home. I see a lot of contradicting information about how that's all going down. And as long as any number of her kids are living at home, I think they're just going to continue on much the same as they have before. However, we have seen, especially that family game night, some very awkward situations where the whole family seems a little... You ever seen Bill Engvall? He has this joke about being 15 degrees off cool. The family feels 15 degrees off normal. And I don't mean normal for the rest of us, I mean normal for them. Cody says he was trying to figure out what his purpose was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And he says it was always his children. And he thinks he was super naive when he started polygamy because he thought he'd just be surrounded by his kids and his wives. And he imagined his 5 or 6 oldest kids would just live across the street with their families. This was always his plan. And perhaps if they had ever felt rooted to someplace, they might have stayed closer. But they felt they had a home in the 2 places that most of them have settled. Vegas and Utah. And so it makes perfect sense for them to branch out and go to those places where they felt the most at home. It makes no sense for the oldest kids to be across the street in Flagstaff. And I say across the street because you couldn't do that where they lived previously. And he's like, this fantasy came out of the affection that I had for my kids. And it's not a plural marriage thing. It's an enjoying my family thing. So 55th birthday Cody, back in time, says that his goal, and he hopes his kids don't reject it, which is already couching it as if I fail, it's their fault, is to go back to being dad. And he mentions, I'm meeting with Janelle tomorrow to discuss the business and property. Okay. Cody, it's your birthday. Do you know what that means it also is? Your anniversary with Janelle. That you're ignoring. And going to continue ignoring. Robin says, I tell him to remember who he is, the man that she fell in love with, who was loving his kids, and she feels like he's struggling because he's hurt, excuse number 1, and this is not who he is, excuse number 2. We don't need this. We've heard this exact same excuse every time that Robin has to defend Cody, and Cody's revealing he's made a covenant with God to return to being a loving father. That is a crazy sentence that I had to utter. Isn't it? Not because you made a covenant with God. Obviously, as a believer, I'm fine with that part. It's the part where you have to return to being a loving father. Like the admission of, yeah, I just stopped doing that is wild to me. And he says, this always gave me my purpose in life. And he says, onward and upward with the goals in his life to make his family better again. You know what? More power to you, but I'm shocked he admitted that he stopped being a loving father. That's all. So David's going to take Christine ring shopping because they're not engaged, but Christine has never been ring shopping. And Cody got a ring and just brought it home to her, but Christine's not much for surprises, and she really likes spending time together, so this is super exciting for her. And the jeweler says, listen, I spoke with you on the phone, you said you liked a marquee, let me show you these cuts, let me show you these sizes, and she pulls some examples out for them, and Christine's like, I don't know what's popular or trendy, I just know what I like, which is this specific cut and mixed metals. And it was the same thing. I knew what I liked. I like rose gold. And I wanted something a little bit more whimsical and less rigid, but with a thin band. And honestly, I was only specific about the wedding band. in particular because I have super sensitive skin. So the bands together couldn't be too wide. So if you can see that, this is very much so not very wide, and my engagement ring is not much wider than that. And Christine's like, the ring that Cody got me was a Claudia ring. And we know it was a Claudia ring because they all had Claudia rings. Janelle weighs in saying, if I got remarried, I just want a simple gold band. And Mary, on the other hand, is like, I would have to give some direction. She knows who she is as a person. She likes specific things. And unlike Christine, she's not much for the marquee cut, and she prefers a square. Christine tries on mixed metals, and she's like, oh, I really like this. And Cody pops up to say he still doesn't know if Christine was dating, but her whole goal, blah, 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 blah. Can we get an edit that is just not the same thing over and over and over in every talking head? Can we talk to Isabel about literally anything but the speed of her mother's relationship? Maybe Aspen too. Just get Cody to say literally anything except for the fact that I don't know if Christine is dating. I'm sorry. I just don't know if I can take the rest of this season where every episode has 3 to 8 minutes of just the same repeated information over and over and over and over. I keep losing my marbles, and I'm finding it hard to talk about because what am I going to tell you guys that I literally haven't said every other time? So anyways, he's saying that when people ask him, when should Christine have started dating? That doesn't happen. No one's asking you that question except for producers. And stop it. He says, the day she left. Listen, the day that she ended it, you made a point to tell her that she's going to find a boyfriend who's going to steal all your money. Like, that was a thing you said, bro. I have the season 17 footage. I had to think. Christine reminds us that with plural weddings, you don't feel separated. You might celebrate it. She just got married. That was it. Like, that was all the expectation was. She didn't invite many people. When you're a plural wife, it's not about you. It's about the family. And so when she left Cody, she really kind of considered, what's the next relationship going to look like? She wants the celebration. She wants the showers. She wants to get to do it all, just like her daughters did. Janelle agrees that everyone should get what they want. And what she would want is to get married on a mountaintop. Maybe in jeans. Simple gold ring. That's it. Perfect. I love that for her. That's so Janelle, and I love it for her. Mary has not considered it yet. She's not really there to start talking about what a next marriage is going to look like. David's getting to look at some different rings, and he picks out this black metal ring. And he said he had a gold ring the first time he got married. Now he just wants something a little different. And Christine's like, can we add the black metal onto the band to kind of make it a little bit more matchy-matchy? And David's like, do you remember when we were laying on the floor and I told you I could marry you tonight? He was ready then. And he was single for far too long. He was so unhappy, but he's happy now. And I think that's a good spot to end this one. I know I asked on my community tab, and if you haven't had an opportunity yet to go and vote in the poll, you're welcome to do so. If you guys wanted me to keep these to like 2 videos a week, a little bit longer, talking and just kind of find a natural break point. Not every episode has a great natural break, but we'll figure it out. And then just leave it at that. Or would we rather take the like 3 subplots, because it seems oftentimes that there's a Christine and Janelle subplot, a Cody subplot, and a Mary subplot, because they're not very well tied together, and do 3 shorter videos trying to encompass more of it. Right now, the 2 videos is winning, which is perfectly fine. There may be some weeks, though, that I have to break it into 3. Things have been so busy that there are times where, holy goodness, trying to film this and like find that time to film 2 longer videos may not fit into my life schedule. Don't worry, I will not. Whatever the majority rules is will be the majority of the time what I do. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. So if you haven't gotten a chance to go answer the poll and give me your honest thoughts and opinions, please do. And if you have more opinions or more ideas, leave them in the comments. I am absolutely thrilled to do any and all of that. I did want to say a wonderful thank you to the folks who sent out super thanks last week. I know Whiskey River you did, and I believe Crafty Florida Lady, if I remember correctly, you also left one. That you guys have been fantastic. I hope you don't mind the call out. I appreciate you so much. My heart is so full every time I see names in the comments that I recognize. I'm like, yep, These are my people, and I am so glad to be here with you guys. And I am just absolutely and utterly thrilled to be here with you every week. And thank you so much for being here with me, because frankly, it wouldn't be half as fun. And I actually genuinely do recognize usernames in the comments. And I'll say to my husband, I'm like, oh, so-and-so said something, I gotta see. And like, he's like, oh, for pity's sake, all right, go do what you gotta do. And it's like, okay. He laughs at me because he's like, he's like, it's so cute how you get so excited about this every week. And I'm like, I know, because it's just so much fun. I love these people. So I'm super thrilled. Yeah, I gotta go check my cheesecake and see. Hopefully it's not going to crack. It doesn't matter. It's just for home. As long as the one for church next week doesn't crack, I don't care. If you're interested, I am attempting to make an orange cheesecake. Okay? So like orange, like the flavor orange, not the color orange, cheesecake. And then I want to make a homemade cranberry sauce to go over top with a graham cracker crust, and I put a little cinnamon in there, and I'm trying to decide if I should put like some clove, because I know clove and orange goes really well together. It's supposed to be kind of a play on like Thanksgiving foods, because we're not doing a Thanksgiving dinner at church for me to make it for, but I wanted something super fall. Let me know what you think, because I'm really excited to test this thing out. And if it's gross, I'm going to tell you. Have no fear. I will tell you if this thing is disgusting. So hope you guys have a fantastic day. I will see you back here probably tomorrow for the second half of this episode. I usually try to get them out one day and the next. So as long as nothing crazy happens, that's what we're going to do. But I am so stoked to be here with you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!